It can be so short. Because the research validates 12-minute walks. It's like you get so many health benefits in a 12-minute walk, but twice as many of the benefits if you know how to walk well.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a memorable one. Our guest is the co-author of Walking Well, a new approach for comfort, vitality, and inspiration in every step. Bruce Fertman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Michael.
It's great to have you, Bruce. And I'd love to know a little bit about, and I know our listener would love to know a little bit about you and your career journey leading up to what you're doing today.
Okay, well, I started teaching movement when I was 12, and I'm 73, so it's been a while. I started out as I started teaching swimming and diving at that age, and also gymnastics. So I did that. I was on the Penn State gymnastic team, which was the best gymnastic team in the country at that time. And I did that till I was about 20. And then I started studying martial arts, Tai Chi and Aikido, modern dance, contact improvisation, just a lot of movement work. And I also started studying the Alexander technique at that time. And a great deal of my career, about 40 years, was spent training people to be Alexander teachers, Alexander technique teachers. And then I went on to study Argentine tango and kudos and archery and Japanese tea ceremony. So my life has just been full of great teachers who were great understanders of human movement, both gross motor movement and fine motor movement. And that's what I know about. And the reason why I've ended up with walking as a major theme at this point is because it's the way I can get to most people. Walking is our common denominator in terms of movement. Almost all of us walk. And it's a really great place to begin to teach people about movement. So that's why I'm doing that now. I'm a rather spry 73-year-old, and not all my contemporaries are. And so this can be my way of helping, my way of serving my generation, but also younger generations who are stuck into social media more than they want to be, and who sit down more than they want to, which is also something that your profession struggles with as well.
Absolutely. I think the world, this day and age, it used to be, it used to be that you could pick on the bookkeepers and the accountants and people who, all they could do was work while they were sitting. Typically, it's a requirement almost, unless you have like a portable desk with wheels or something. That's a bad joke, but it is a joke. But anyways, and so the world, and it's only just sort of gotten worse, right? Because you take, and especially bookkeepers and accountants, you take that job and it's only become more online. Whereas before, people maybe would walk to go see a client to, be in someone's office. Right. Whereas that's all, almost irrelevant nowadays. And so it's even gotten worse, that we would sit more in our desks. So I'm really curious you've studied movement, and which is really interesting. I mean, you always hear people talking about running or, some other, or those specifics, martial arts. People do martial arts, they do Tai Chi or something along those lines, but specifically walking. It's very interesting. And you talked about getting to in serving your generation, and I'm sure earlier generations here, like that, and new generations that we have. What is the benefit of walking, and what starts to happen? Why should our listener be excited about what you can help them see through walking?
This is a good question. Walking is simple, and in a way you don't learn it because it's woven into our instinctual abilities. Like you watch babies and they just have the capacity to walk, and all they have to do is go through a process of acquiring certain amount of movement and strength, and no one has to teach them these things. And then at some point they're standing and walking. And so it's woven into us, this activity. And everyone, it's like riding a bicycle, even more instinctual than riding a bicycle. So once you start walking, you don't have to think about it a lot. And so if you just get a little bit of training as an adult, you can end up walking really, really well. Whereas, like becoming a black belt in Aikido, like Michael Gelb is, you're going to have to train really, really hard to get good at that. But you can actually learn to walk really well very quickly, especially inside of the methodology that Michael Gelb and I have taken a lifetime to develop. So that's one advantage. But forever, and we write about this a lot in the book, people have walked not just for exercise. People walk so they can think more clearly. When people say, well, yeah, I have to go out, I need to go out for a walk, get some fresh air and clear my mind. So people walk for their own sanity in a way. And so if we end up not walking hardly at all, we start to not have that channel available to us anymore. We don't make use of walking to take a break, to clear our head, to get some fresh air, and for you guys to rest your eyes, from a screen, to go into the three-dimensional world is really important. So I just think walking is just for how simple it is, you can get so much from it that it's just a kind of a no-brainer. It's like we should just be walking.
It definitely, I appreciate the walking myself. I don't walk enough, but when I do get more clear, feel refreshed, sleep better, all sorts of great benefits. And yet I don't walk enough. Why do you think, for me, I mean, we're talking about me at this point. I'm sure a listener is probably, if we asked and polled all of them, do you walk enough? And I'm sure it's a big, big percentage that don't walk enough. No, they should walk more. I should walk more. Even talking to you now and listening to some of these benefits, and we'll get into how I can walk better. But what is it that, has us not walk enough?
It's a very important question, actually, because we have this idea, we're working hard, most of us, if we have lucky enough to have jobs. And so we're working hard, and we wake up in the morning and we get ready and we say, we just jump in, we say, oh, I got so much to do today. And we jump in, and we think we're going to be real efficient that way and get a lot done because we're getting off to an early start and we're not going to take many breaks. And that way we're going to get a lot done and so on. But it really actually doesn't work that way, because it feels like it's efficient, but it's actually inefficient. So if you, for example, let's say you have a car and it's a wreck. You haven't had it maintained, you haven't had it inspected, like some of the cars here in New Mexico, and it's just a wreck, right? But you get into that car in the morning and you start driving, you drive all day. And in contrast to maintaining a car, it's like working perfectly, totally tuned up. And you get in that car and it's going to be way more pleasant, and it's going to be really much more efficient. So actually, it's not a long time to take a 12-minute walk before you sit down at the computer, to take a 12-minute walk in your lunch break, and a 12-minute walk at the end. We're talking about less than a half hour, and you definitely will get more done in a day. So it's counterintuitive. We think, oh no, we got to sit down and get in the saddle and never get out and just get a lot done. That's actually an inefficient way to work, because we have bodies.
Very interesting.
So
yes, we have bodies, and I appreciate I completely relate with getting up. I've got young children, get them where they need to be, and then that all comes back to, we got to get the work going. We got meetings on, these sorts of things. But when I do take the walk, those days are always some of the best days, because probably of some of the things you're talking about. And so maybe it's starting the day with a walk instead of thinking, oh, we'll get to the walk. Start with the tank full versus, running dry and then thinking, oh, let's refresh with the walk.
Yeah, just like warm up the car and then get going. Yeah, it can be so short. Because the research validates 12-minute walks. It's like you get so many health benefits in a 12-minute walk, but twice as many of the benefits if you know how to walk well. I mean, it makes a huge
difference. That's a little teaser there. We got 12-minute. So the statistics are that 12 minutes, lots of health benefits. And as you were saying that, literally I was thinking about a news article or something I read somewhere where sitting is like worse than smoking.
Yeah. Sitting is
like it causes all of these. Yeah, the new smoking is sitting, and so 12 minutes we can turn that around and have some health benefits going. And if there are any that you wanted to highlight, we could. I mean, we talked about clarity of mind. We talked about all of those good things, like we're feeling better, we're thinking better, we can get to our work. But I'm sure heart disease, all sorts of crazy stuff that can happen to us if we're just sitting here, turning into jello.
Yeah. Michael Gelb in the book, he's the researcher, and I'm more the technique person around walking. So if you read the book, if you read Walking Well, Michael lays out all the health benefits. They're too numerous to mention. It's like everything. It helps everything. But I wanted to say something, about, it's this idea that, sitting can be hazardous to your health, kind of like the new smoking, but it doesn't have to be hazardous to your health, sitting. Again, it comes down to not so much how much we sit, because I have days where because I'm a writer, so I have days where I'll sit 7 or 8 hours a day, but I feel great. Mm-hmm. But that's because of how I sit, right? And that's learnable too. And that's not that difficult to learn either. And Michael and I spend a lot of time in the book talking about sitting and talking about standing, and not just talking about it, teaching people how to sit well, which doesn't mean good posture. It's much more than that. But sitting well, standing well, walking well. And the reason why that's so important is that when you think about it, like when you sit, there's a certain relationship between your spine, your pelvis, your ribs, and your head. I call it the spine and the three spheres. And there's a certain organization of that part of your body. And how can I say this? It's like if you're sitting a lot and you get into a certain configuration, let's say very rounded over like this at the computer, that's going to be how you tend to stand, because that part of the body is the same. It's just that your legs are lengthened underneath you when you're standing. But your torso is going to be, if you organize it a certain way when you sit, you're going to organize it the same way when you stand. And standing is inside of walking. So actually, to learn how to walk well, learning how to sit well and stand well is important. And if you guys are sitting, 8 hours a day, you could be practicing. It's not just one way to sit, but there are a number of ways of sitting that make the body feel actually very good. So I can be sitting in a certain way and I can be moving my fingers around, or I can be talking to you, and my body is still well organized and working well. It's like the car is still tuning itself up. It's working well. So you can learn to do that when you're wiggling your fingers around, and you can learn to do that when you're moving your mouth around,
Mm-hmm.
Because, all we really do as humans, basically, if you really think about it, we lie down, right? We're either lying down or we're sitting or we're standing, doing the dishes or something, or waiting in line, or we're walking somewhere, right? Or we're transitioning between those. That's all we do. We don't do anything else. So if you just learn to do those basic things really well, then basically you go through your whole day using your body well. And that gives us energy. Rather than taking the energy away, it kind of increases our energy. And that's an interesting idea.
It is an interesting idea. And it's like you do the simple things well, that gives you more energy, which, people are always talking about, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I didn't sleep well. If we could alleviate some of that just by changing slightly, tiny little change,
yes,
to the way we do the lying, the sitting, the standing, and the walking, we're just getting, it's almost like newfound energy. Like
yes, and actually
exciting.
Those four things are called in many ancient traditions. Those four things that humans do are called the four dignities, which is a really interesting word to choose, right? That there's something about doing those well that is respectful of ourselves. And, that we're respecting our body and we're respecting the design of our body. And it affects how we feel about ourselves. Yeah. Let me say something else, if I may. It's like, I'm trying to come up with a bookkeeping metaphor. So it's like, imagine someone gives you, let's say you're a financial advisor, you're a bookkeeper, and you help people with their finances, right? Their accounting. So they give you a certain amount of money. That would be energy that's coming into the system, right? And then if you're really good at your job, right, at managing that money and using that money well, you're going to produce more money. You're going to create more money, right? So that means you think, yeah. So that's what Michael and I are getting at when we teach movement, and in this case, walking. We put energy into our system, food, air, whatever, and then, okay, how do we use and manage that energy? And if we use it and manage it really well, it feeds on itself. It increases. So a person takes a walk, they feel really tired when they start. They feel better when they finish. That means that would be the accountant making money for your customer, right? But if you put in that money and someone doesn't know how to manage it and they don't know how to use it and they don't use it wisely, they don't spend it wisely, right? And then they end up with less money, right? And then you're depleted. You're depleted. So
You're absolutely.
you see what I mean? That's kind of what we're after.
Absolutely.
We want to use energy to make more energy. That's the goal.
Yeah, and I think the on top of that analogy, the one that we often talk about, and if we're talking about a business owner and the bookkeeper and the accountant, and it's like, what are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention? Right? Because if you don't pay attention to those things, it's like then nothing can be done. And when you think about it, are we paying attention to the four dignities of sleeping, how we lie, how we sit, how we stand, how we walk? If we're not paying attention, which I'm not, I'm just walking. Like you said, I learned how to walk. Hey, and if someone came up to me and said, let me show you how to walk better, it's not a common thing you would hear, right? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, show me how to chew gum. Right? You'd be like, wait a second, is this a joke? Right? But you can really think, I know enough to know that subtle things make a massive difference. Just like in the analogy of the bookkeeping, we're not putting rockets together here. We're paying attention and we're doing it the correct way, which then leads to an efficient system that generates more money, more profit. Yes. And yes, how you use that money, how you create, how the money gets earned, or not earned, but how it gets generated, how does it get used, where does it get put, right? And are we paying attention to all those things? Very good analogy to these very simple dignities.
You could be talking about what I do. That's how similar it is. Yeah, it's great how you say it. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I could go on with it, but
well, you said it. It was your analogy. But yes, it totally lands with me. And it really, because the human body is a structure, right? It's an entity. And just like a business, it's an entity. Yeah. And so there are very common things there. And often people are not thinking, and for years, I was actually talking with a bookkeeper this morning around, we think about the way accounting has been run for the last, hundreds of years, right? Thousands of years. It's not designed for the business owner. It's designed for compliance and accountants, right? And so there's a disconnect. And so what's happening today is that people are going, wait a second, this can be done differently. This has to be improved such that the owner has full understanding that you spend more time generating the information and working the accounting system more for the business owner, but still deliver what's needed for the accountant. And so when you think about it, it's very similar. It's like, hey, we've been taught to not really think about it. It's like, hey, if you can get up out of a chair and walk, good for you, right? You're winning, right? But if we did that a little bit better, it's just like a business. I can start up a business. Hey, I'm winning. Really? Maybe not so well, but it's just paying attention to these core fundamentals. So I do love it.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to say that I forgot before, which is that you bring up the element of paying attention. And awareness is awareness. You can't make any improvement without the awareness. But then the question is, what should we be paying attention to, right? And and that's true for what we teach. We need to get our students paying attention to certain specific things that they don't usually pay attention to, and they're usually amazingly simple, right, and overlooked. But the other thing that I would ask you about is if you had to come up with the four dignities of accounting or bookkeeping, like the most core essential things that go through bookkeeping from the beginning to the end. And if you attended to those 4 things, that everything would sort of fall into place. That would be a really interesting thing to think about.
I was actually, it was in my mind as when you were talking about the dignities and we were going through this analogy, it did pop in. It's like, what are the 4 dignities of, I don't know that it's about accounting, but it's the 4 dignities of the entity of the business, right? And if you think of finance is so critical to a business survival, it's the nervous system, it's the blood and the nervous system, and it's all connected, but it's incredibly important. And not enough business owners understand it and utilize it and make sure that it's healthy. And therefore their businesses don't thrive and they don't get the results that they want. And so it is something, I mean, I'm fortunate to have done a lot of work with Profit First, which is a way of utilizing the information that comes from bookkeeping that helps you manage the flow of money in your business. And so Lisa Campbell, who's been on the podcast tons of times, is an expert in Profit First, and I've seen her magic in working the numbers. And so one of those dignities would definitely be the accuracy of the information, right? People discount the accuracy component. That's the compliance work that a bookkeeper would do. They discount it. They don't, business owners, whether it's right or, or close enough, right? The more accurate it is, the more likely you're going to get information that's useful, right? And if it's not accurate, how can you have confidence in that information? It's like going, oh, geez, this compass works sometimes, but not all the time. Is this compass right? If I don't know, would I want to fly a plane with a compass I don't know that's totally right? I mean, who would do that? So that's definitely there. And so once you have that accurate information and then you put it into a system that enables you to show you the flow of money and like, what's this money? And being able to know, what's this money being used for?
Let me tell you what the analogy
is this giving us more or less? What is that?
It's so great. I'm loving this, working this analogy. So where people are imprecise when it comes to movement is with the understanding of their own anatomy. And if you don't understand your anatomy precisely, like where your head meets your spine, or where your hip joints are in relation to your sacrum, or where your ankle is in relation to your heel, right? Like if everyone has a general idea, but in terms of the accuracy, people are way off, usually way off. They think it's one way, it's totally a different way. So when we call them articulations, when you really know where everything is in relation to everything else, and you have a very accurate map of your structure, then you get flow, what we call flow. Flow, not flow of money, but flow of energy. Flow of, it's a fluid, flowing use of movement and energy so things are just sailing along and without effort. Things are going smoothly.
And I would say, yeah, it's going smoothly. And yeah, it's like if you take that energy, it's probably exponentially growing because of the fact that it's growing. It's like not only do you have it, but it's improving and getting better and better all the time because you're in that flow. And it's a very tight connection to that analogy because most business owners and probably smaller, we would a lot more small, medium-sized, probably small business that would fall into this category. But it would shock you probably if we did a deeper dive. But it's the bag of receipts, right? It's like here's a box, here's a bag, here's a garbage bag filled with all of my financial information. it's kind of the same thing. I'm just a bag of bones, right?
Uh-huh.
Where's my liver? Where's my spleen? I don't even know what that is, right?
Right.
You're talking about a hip joint. It's down there somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be what most people would think about their bag of bones they're hauling around, just like a
Exactly.
business owner is hauling around a bag of financial information, and it's like useless when you think of it that way.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Nothing
disorganized.
can be done with it.
You know
It's
what
totally
I thought
disorganized.
about?
Yeah.
When we talk about a business, we often talk about a corporation, but that word means body, corporal.
Interesting.
Yes. So
Interesting. Yes.
when we talk about incorporating, it means that we're turning something into a body, into a system, into something that's alive. Thinking of it as a body, what are its vital organs? What keeps it alive? What keeps it healthy? What keeps it moving? What keeps it growing? How do you get it to mature, become wiser, become right? It's a great analogy to work with.
It is, and I think our listener can use this analogy when they're proposing and pitching, and I'm trying to think of the better word for that, but when they are demonstrating and talking about the value they provide, financial accuracy enables you to determine what is the health of all the organs of the business. Is the marketing working? Is the sales effective? What is the cost of sales? Is that actually in the correct line? What about the rest of our expenses and the things that we're doing? What are the returns on those investments? Are they high? Are they low? Where should they be? Like, it's all those diagnostics that impossible to do without financial accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And so similar, you pay attention and imagine the way we sit impacts all of the organs. Now, fortunately, in the financial world, we can get there pretty easily. Like, the human body is much more complex than a business, but yet they're both simple structures, right? In the grand scheme of things that we can, as humans, impact. And maybe let's talk a little bit about what is, if there were some, obviously, I think reading this book is going to be a great benefit to many. And why would we not want to read that book? When we think about how important it is to get more energy, to have more health benefits, and really we're all at risk of a lot of serious health implications without doing it. If we can improve it, get more value out of it through walking, sitting, and paying attention to this, doing it a little bit better, why would we not want to invest time and energy into this? And this book sounds like a fantastic start.
Just a little bit better.
Yes.
But if it's a little bit better,
just a little bit,
sitting a little better, standing a little better, walking a little better, because that's all we do, it accumulates. It's kind of like interest. It just, you can start with just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, but it's because that's all we do. It does accumulate through the day. So I must say, I had such a rich experience with Michael Gelb writing this book together, because we co-authored, we spoke to each other literally every day for a year. We walked hundreds and hundreds of miles, right, doing our research and comparing. And I must say, this book is far better than either of us could have written by ourselves. And it's really a good book. And what makes it so good is, one, and I think this is mostly Michael, he kind of talks about walking in a way that just makes you want to walk. So that's important, because the motivation needs to be there. And then I have a lot to say in the book about how to make it really easy, how to make it comfortable, what really, in a way, the secrets are to making walking really easy. And then when you're using less effort and you're not straining, which, I mean, you read just the part one of the book, and by the end, you have this. And I mean, you don't need, I mean, just from the book, you just do what the book says. And by the end of part one, you're walking more comfortably. By the end of part two, you're walking comfortably and you're generating energy. And not just physical energy, but you're getting more oxygen coming up to the brain. The brain uses like 20% of your oxygen. So when your body is working well underneath that brain, it just sends more energy. And then you have ideas. And ideas are a big part of businesses succeeding and lives succeeding, both.
Yes.
So, and then the third part of the book really is my favorite. And it's really about walking for positive change and walking for transformation. Because people walk for all different kinds of reasons. Like for example, you could be walking with a client. Like, you know, if it's a client that you could actually work with, not online, but get together. Hey, let's get together and we'll meet up at the park and let's go for a walk. And let's talk about some of your ideas and where you want to go, right? And you go for an hour walk.
Absolutely.
And you're walking what we call shoulder to shoulder, right? So you're not looking at each other like this. You're walking in the same direction, right? Side by side, and you have totally different conversation. So, and then something grows out of that. And then there are people who walk almost as a form of meditation, right? Like just getting out in nature and sometimes just being by yourself and not working. And then something can shift and then you can go back and you can work better. So this walking for really deep personal change, you know, health on not just the physical level. Maybe I would use the word sanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, it's like when we think of things you can do to improve your health, right? You know, go for a run, hit the gym, go swimming, play a sport, meditate, you know, all of those things. There's complex levels of complexity there. Whereas walking is kind of gives you, it kind of pulls a little bit from each one of those. And I find, like, I've done meditation retreats and things like that, and I would find that swimming's meditative, walking is as well, and provides the physical, almost amazing benefits that I've discovered myself through happenstance, where it's like, this walking's pretty effective at losing weight and, you know, just general fitness if it's done. And so, again, we talked about earlier about, you know, why don't I walk more? It's that I think I'm going to get more done, and I'm confused about that. I think I'm diluted that I'm going to get more done if I just go right to the desk, right?
It's counterintuitive.
And so it's counterintuitive. And so I've got to make a change there to do more walking. So for our listener, maybe a teaser, you know, if I'm going out for a walk, so I'm going to go for a walk after we finish this podcast, I'm going to go for 12 minutes. How can I improve my walk?
Okay. Well, there's so many.
And we're having a huge rainstorm here today. I don't know if you know the big hurricane there that came through. It's hit us today, right? It's come all the way up North America. It's come across Canada, and it's like it dumped a bunch on us this morning. But I'm looking outside, and there is no rain, so this is going to work out, hopefully, or I'll be really wet.
That's great. So, you know, there's so much that one can learn about walking. But what Michael and I have done is we've made a really simple methodology. And if you just go through it sequentially, it all happens. So the very first thing that I would give you to think about is, first, you go out for your walk and just pay attention to how it feels when you walk the way you normally walk. So most of us, we go for a walk and we don't pay attention to what it feels like to walk, because we're just going from A to B, or we're getting our exercise or something, and we're thinking about something else. So the first step is to walk how you usually walk and say, what does this feel like? What do I feel like? So it's like, how does the ground feel under my left foot? How does the ground feel under my right foot? What speed am I walking at? What's my breathing feel like? Where are my eyes? Where am I looking? Do I hear anything? So it's just, some very simple questions, and you wait for your body to answer you. It will tell you. You say, what's it feel like under my left foot? You'll feel it. Your body will give you some information, will talk to you in a way. So the first thing is you just check in and you say, what's going on? How do I feel right now? It's almost like your internal weather system. It's like, what's the weather in here? What's it feel like to walk right now? That's the first step. Now, the second step would be to say to yourself, I wonder what it would feel like if I let my feet come down any way they want. If I didn't control my feet. Like, other animals do not have any idea of the right way to walk. They have no idea. They haven't been taught anything, right? But even though walking is instinctive for us too, because we live in a very complex culture, we are influenced by that culture, and it affects how we move. So someone might have told someone, you should make a lot of noise when you walk, or you should take big steps, big strides, or, you should, your heels should come down first and you should roll through your big toe, or, your arches should stay high. So many things. Your knees should point forward. Things like this. And we've been taught things. So the first step to walking more naturally is see what happens if I let my feet come down any way they want. I wonder how they would come down with no instruction, assuming your feet know exactly what to do. So those are the two things I would start with. Noticing how it normally feels to walk, giving your feet permission to come down any way they want, and then noticing if it changes your walk. That would be the first. That's the very first instruction. And then to find out more, you just have to buy the book. You do.
We're going to buy the book.
It's such a good book.
I'm hoping. And do you have an audio book? Is it just in print so far? Or?
Yes, it's going to be Kindle audio, so you can listen to us while you're walking, and it's coming out on September 3rd, but you can pre-order it already.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to be pre-ordering it myself, and probably by the time our listener is listening to this, let's see, when is this going out? So they will be September 3rd. So this is going out. So as our listener is listening to this, they can, hey, you got to get out, get this on your phone, get your earbuds in, get walking here with us today with this, and order the book, because it's going to be released on the 3rd. You said, right? September 3rd.
So that means, like, if you bought it on Kindle, you'd get it that day. But
you can get it right now if you just click the button.
You can get it right
in
now.
Your phone.
That's it.
That's right. That's exciting. So where can they get the book? Amazon, I'm guessing, but is there any specific place you like to direct people?
It will be in all the major bookstores.
Yeah, that's great.
But you can get it on Amazon too. You just nice. Type in Walking Well.
Everywhere you get your books.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Walking Well. This has been absolutely fantastic, Bruce. And I would say for our listener, I have heard many listeners do walk and listen to podcasts, right? It's one way. And I think you can't, I would say I like what you said about, paying attention, being out there, letting your mind, stepping away from, audio information, or let your thoughts drift and just be in nature, be present to what is going on. Sometimes I'm on a phone. I'll often, if I do go for walks, if I have a call where it doesn't require the computer, I try to go for a walk. But that's a little bit different. I'm not paying attention to myself or my surroundings. I'm paying attention to the person on the phone. So I think walking without anything is a good idea as well.
Yeah, they're both good. It's if you can.
Yeah, both. Yes, that's it.
If you can have a meeting with someone, walking and talking rather than sitting and talking, do it walking.
Much better.
Yes, because at least you're walking.
That's right. And I think that's probably an area of opportunity for our listener, which is, yes, there is a lot of work you need to do at the desk, but there's also, maybe that's an opportunity. There's maybe calls you need to make, some follow-up, different things like that. Or if you want to consume podcast information, that sort of thing, do a webinar, do it walking. We want to get our listener walking more, for sure.
Yeah, anything you can do walking, do it walking. Anything you can do standing, do it standing at least some of the time. Anything, if you have to sit down to do it, sit down and do it. But sit really well.
And a good mix. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to this book. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about my walk I'm about to do. And this has been a real pleasure. If people wanted to go to your website or anything like that, if you have any links or any information around you want to get people on, what would those be?
Well, it's really simple. You go to brucefertman.com or you go to michaelgelb.com.
Beautiful. And we'll have those links in our show notes. But Bruce, I want to thank you for being on the show. This has been pleasurable for me. I'm sure for our listener, a real generous of you to come and speak with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Michael.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye. And don't forget, we have the summit coming up October 17th and 18th. It is always a true joy to have all of our community getting together virtually, listening to amazing content from all of our speakers. Don't forget to register. You can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/summit, and I will see you there. Until we see you there, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.